is a Think Live Be production.
3, 2, 1. Seeking the best, being my best. Do do da 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 da. Seeking the best, seeking the best, seeking the best, 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 best,
Welcome to Seeking the Best, the podcast for growth-minded real estate agents seeking clarity, focus, and a better way forward. I'm your host, Kathryn Stelgis, and sitting across from me is my co-host, Patrick Fatika, our sound engineer, producer extraordinaire.
Good morning.
Well, I thought we were going to do hello, hello.
No, that was something you said.
You vetoed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I vetoed it. I was like, that's dumb.
I like saying good morning to everybody. Let's get started on the day.
You're just
You guys
assuming?
they're driving to work. Let's get ready.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I do listen to podcasts more on the way in than like later in the day. If I'm driving home or if I'm showing properties, I'm usually listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my little thing.
Decompress.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And then also, like if you're showing properties,
you can't listen to a podcast showing properties.
I mean, you can,
start, stop.
It can be a lot of start stopping if they're all kind of in the general area. So I like to listen to my music. I actually have thought about building some playlists for you guys for like good showing properties music.
Yeah, we can do that at some point.
And also like listing appointment music. You got to get pumped up.
Oh, geez.
So that's a whole different genre of music.
All right. Well, I mean,
or maybe not genre is not the right word, but like what I listen to before a listing appointment is different than what I listen to before showings or during showings.
Let me look into it, and then maybe we can do a Spotify podcast or Spotify playlist or something like that.
That'd be fun.
All right.
I've been thinking about that for a while now, and I just said it out loud so that now we've made a promise that we have to deliver on.
You made a promise.
We are here in the season of lessons. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about lessons for a couple weeks now, more than a few weeks. Yeah. I've delved into some deep, dark lessons that I've learned through my going on 20 years in real estate. So I've kind of been through it all at this point, I think. Well, I take that back because every client experience is every time you work with somebody, that new personality could throw something new at you. And then also if you hire people, like every day could provide a new experience. Yeah. Good or bad. But most of these lessons are about bad things that happened that I said, oh no, not again.
Yeah. We'll never let that happen.
Not happening again. Right. And so, but mostly it wasn't like, it's not like I had those experiences and then immediately changed, but these things that we've been talking about are these experiences that changed and started shaping the way I thought about things.
Yeah, mostly looking back on and going, that was the point. Now that I can look back with fresh eyes that aren't filled with rage.
Or tears.
Or tears, mostly rage. You can look back and go, that was the point where I finally decided to change what I was doing.
Yeah.
You
or it started that thought process.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
So we've talked about specific client experiences that I remember with like as if it happened yesterday that changed things. We've talked about business decisions, hiring and training people and how that those patterns shape the way that you become a leader. And today I've got a little,
you got something for us?
I got something new.
A new story. You have a new story?
I wonder if I'm ever going to run out of these lessons. Honestly,
it's going to be 2028 and we're
still
like,
doing
I'm
lessons.
talking about stories.
But this is the thing about lessons is that you don't really know when you're going to have one. It could be tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true.
That you could have an experience tomorrow where you're like, going to change the way I do something.
Right. All right. Well, then why don't you fill me in?
I'm going to take you back in time on this one.
Okay.
There was a time where there was like 26, 27,000 listings on the market for sale in our area. And during that time, what that meant was that every day there was like what felt like hundreds of new listings that would match a buyer's criteria. And so I was working with this one guy, let's call him Peter. I was working with Peter and I had been showing him houses for a long time because every weekend it felt like there was all these new options that met his price, his size, you know, what he's looking for, bedrooms, bathrooms, the location. I felt like I was pretty much out with him every weekend, almost to a point where I had started to think like, does he have anything better to do with his time? Maybe he just needs a friend and he's never going to buy anything. Well, we finally got to this point where I remember standing on a street. It was a sunny day and I had shown him a pretty typical Florida house. In some of these areas in the suburbs of Orlando, they're built in like the early 2000s. Stucco exterior, pretty traditional Florida looking house. And I'm standing on the street with him and we're talking about how he likes it and he thinks maybe he's ready to make an offer. And then he said,
"Oh, and then yeah, I want you to pay my sister a referral fee."
Up to that point, I'd been showing Peter houses again for months. At that time, I didn't even know he had a sister. I did not know her name. I didn't know that she had a real estate license. This was all new information. And in that moment of my inexperienced self, I said, okay. And then I went on to write that offer. We closed and a part of my paycheck disappeared. And I felt like so taken advantage of. If you've ever had this experience, I'm sure I'm not the only one, the person who comes out of the blue who was not involved at all in the process and then all of a sudden is getting part of your paycheck, that just doesn't feel right. And I definitely felt very taken advantage of, and I wanted to say no in the moment. I wanted to say, no, what are you, crazy, Peter? Like, who is this? Your sister has a real estate license? I'm not going to pay her a referral fee. I've never even heard of her before. But I just wasn't at that point in my career where I had the confidence to say no, 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 no. So fast forward a few years later. So at this point, the market had changed a little bit. There were still a lot of listings, but what had happened is that the market had actually crashed and was coming close to hitting the bottom. And I was working with this young couple who were buying their first home, and they were adamant about having a charming little bungalow with a front porch. Must have. Near downtown Orlando, there's some areas of the older established city where there's these little 1920s bungalows, craftsman bungalows with the beautiful front porch that you want to just sit outside and just enjoy the Florida lifestyle. And they were just adamant it had to have a front porch. So we searched for a while, and then we finally came across this just charming little craftsman bungalow. It was like a deep red color with white trim, white crisp trim, craftsman front door with dental molding on a brick-lined street with shady oak trees. It was just the picture perfect little spot. And they were ready to make an offer because we had found this perfect place that they wanted so badly, but at their budget, it was actually very challenging to find. So we made the offer. The thing was that because they were first-time home buyers, they needed the seller to pay their closing costs. It was an absolute must. They could not buy a house without closing costs paid. And at that time in the market, although it was common to get closing costs paid on your behalf, it was hard for some sellers because the market had shifted so much that they were underwater or very close to being underwater. And so you couldn't always negotiate that. So the seller said no to the closing costs. They would accept the price, the other terms, but not the closing costs. I let them know, said, we're going to have to find another little bungalow, and went about looking for a new home. A day or so later, I heard from them and another agent, and they said that they had found someone who they're going to work with to write an offer because that agent would give them a big portion of their compensation in order to pay their closing costs. And this was years ago. So this was before we were required to have buyer broker agreements. And in fact, no one used anything of the sort at that time. So there was really nothing I could do except potentially go to my broker and talk about procuring cause, right? But in that moment, I felt devastated because I had lost this buyer after showing them all of these houses. I felt a similar feeling of when working with Peter and part of my compensation got taken by somebody who I'd never even heard of. But in this case, it was the entire check that was just disappearing. A few weeks later, the buyer called me up, and the buyer said that that deal had fallen through and that they wanted to work with me again. And I said, I will work with you again if you sign a buyer broker agreement. And ultimately they said, no, they didn't want to do that. And they moved on. They bought another house. They actually ended up buying a house like 2 streets over from where Patrick and I lived in our first home. This person eventually got their real estate license and sells houses for a living. But in that moment of being able to finally say no and say, you know what, I'm going to stand up for myself, was one of the most liberating moments of my career. And it actually, that particular instance only happened because of the situation with Peter several years before, of feeling taken advantage of and finally saying, I'm not going to keep letting that happen. This is a business. And so I made that decision to say, I will work with you under these terms. And we didn't move forward. But what that led me to do next was to start using a commitment letter with every buyer I worked with. And for years, I had a process that was a business. It was a business process to say, we're only going to work together if you commit to these terms. And here's what I'm going to do for you in exchange. So when fast forward many, many years to the present, and buyer broker agreements are no big deal for me because I made the decision a long time ago to say, no, I'm not just working with anybody. I'm working with people who are committed to working with me.
Yeah, both of those situations were tough. One thing I hope that ended up happening is that when she went and got her real estate license, that she is listening to this podcast right now and goes, hey, that's me. Number 2, I'm sure that this has happened. Some version of this has happened to her since, the least she could have done is sent you an email and said, I'm sorry for what now I see, but yeah, those are, and I think a lot of it is also, it's not even about so much standing up for yourself now. Like, it's about being able to explain why you can't do that. Like the procuring costs, for example. Like I've known this story for years. The idea that you wouldn't have just immediately done that, or that the other agent wouldn't have been afraid that that's what you were going to do, is all insane. It's all insane. I'm not exactly sure why you didn't, except to think that maybe you just didn't want to ruffle any feathers. You wanted to move on, didn't really know about it, that was a thing. The other agent, this is the Wild West of real estate, when everybody was getting their real estate license. So who knows who that person was to even, but if somebody would have brought that to me, and told me that story, I would have been like, well, hold on a second. I'm not writing that offer for you because they're going to come after me for the check. Yeah. So, yeah, all insane.
I think, so there's this, I don't want to get too in the weeds on procuring cause, because I don't know if procuring cause exists in every state. And so like, you might be listening to this and saying, I don't know what that is. So let's not get in the weeds on that, but there's recourse for when you're working with people, but I don't really remember,
especially on a house that you've already written an offer on.
Yeah. And I don't really remember like what happened after that, because it obviously wasn't significant to my experience. My experience was the feeling of them backstabbing me, essentially.
Well, it's backstabbing you, then having the gall to call you back up and say, yeah, that didn't work out. We want you to do it. And then for you to say, well, I want you to sign this. And they go, whoa. We want to be able to do the same thing that we did to you again.
But that was the moment where I remember. So I love like thinking back on these stories, because I remember where we were, and we were in not our first house, the house before that,
the rental.
And I was on the back it wasn't really a porch. It was kind of a stoop, but I was on that back stoop when she called and had that conversation and said, we want to work with you again. That didn't work out. And I remember just like having that just feeling come over me of like, okay, but no way am I just stepping into this without some sort of protection, and just said it. I'd never used a buyer broker form in my life. I wouldn't have even known how to fill it out at that point. Nobody was using them, but I just said, no, this is how it's going to go if we're going to work together, with like complete confidence. It just came over me to say, that doesn't make any business sense. I'm going to go run around with you for the next 3 months, and then you're going to do the exact same thing. When you find your perfect house, you've already shown me that all you care about is getting the perfect house, and anything else that's in the way, you will just kick out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
this is why
the lessons.
This is why when Kathryn hires a new buyer's agent, or we're talking on this show about, for lack of a better term, making people jump through hoops. We want, as a new agent, a buyer's agent, or any agent, you want to make sure that the people that you're working with want to work with you. And the way that you do that is you ask them to buy in. And if they won't buy in, they're telling you who they are. So that is the reason why you have all of these steps, is to weed out the people that aren't going to run you around. Yeah, but if I do that, they won't want to work with me. Yeah, those aren't the people. Those are the people that you are trying to avoid. That's why you ask the questions.
But you know what? It's more than that, because I've been on the other side of this before. Recently. Okay. So I'm going to like teach for a minute, and then I'll get into the lessons I learned. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Do not use these showing agreements. Like, don't try and get somebody in a technicality. And what I mean by that is, when somebody calls and wants to see a property, or you get them as an ad, in an ad, or however you get a buyer lead. I've seen a lot of people try to lock people into buyer broker agreements because they showed them a house or two.
Right. I remember this happened. Right.
Don't get people locked into an agreement when you haven't even consulted with them. It's bad business.
Yeah. This has happened to Kathryn in the last month, where somebody said accidentally signed a broker's agreement, didn't know what they were signing, and all of a sudden the agent's holding it over their head like, you can't use anybody else. You signed this agreement, kind of a thing.
So just listen clearly, because I know when stuff like this happens, you're only getting one side of the story. So if you run into somebody and they're like, oh, I signed an agreement, but I didn't know what I was signing. I mean, sure, you could think to yourself, well, they probably did. And, how could they not? How could they not know what they're signing? Because there's a lot of agents out there who are just like, well, yeah, I have to get you to sign this in order to show you property. So I'm going to send it over via DocuSign real quick. And then boom, it's signed. And they don't realize that they've just committed 6 months to somebody that doesn't know anything about them. They don't know anything about. That doesn't make for a business relationship just because you got somebody to sign off on something. So take the time to hold a consultation and get people to agree to work with you for a period of time for the terms that they understand and agree to. And the only way that can happen is if you do an actual consultation with them. I don't think it's fair to just throw those out via for like an electronic signature, because you talk to them on the phone for like 5 minutes and then they come to an open house of mine, or they come somewhere and they want to work with me and they're like, oh, and I ask them, have you worked with anyone before? And they say, I signed something to see a house. Well, what'd you sign?
Yeah.
It's just not good business.
No, it's real shady.
Remember,
it's like trying to pull a fast one off on somebody who doesn't know any better. And it's like, that's the relationship you want to build. Just don't even I don't think our listeners so much. I think people that would listen to this show are probably listening right now and going, I would never even consider that. But
and that's probably true.
But it's out there.
The only reason I'm bringing it up is because in my recent experience, I know I recognize the other agent's name. It's not a no-name type person. So it just begs the question, like, what's going on out there?
Yeah.
That people are so, if you feel a desperation to get something signed, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
This is a business. Just like if you, I say this all the time, but I really believe it. Like if you go to meet with a CPA, an attorney, a dentist, a doctor, any service provider, you have to sign some sort of agreement for like how they're going to be paid, what services they're rendering before they start working for you.
Right.
But they're not just sending it to you and saying, here you go, I'll see you. They're going to go over it with you.
Yeah.
It's just business. And so.
And if you're, like I said, this will go back to the other thing. If they're so afraid if you're so afraid that if you present this and they're going to be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to call somebody else. I don't want to deal with this. That's why that is there, is so that people like that who will screw you over, who don't respect you or what you do or any of those things, you're weeding them out. So you don't spend months like Kathryn did showing properties to Peter. Right? Or months showing properties to these other people and find out, oh, you know what? They had a referral this whole time. Or you know what? They stabbed me in the back and they went somewhere else. That's the whole point of this, is to weed those people out.
So this stuff happens. Like it doesn't matter how much experience you have, like people can screw you over. I mean, I'm sure it happens to all business owners in some way, shape or form. But I had this happen like in the last year or so after we started using buyer broker agreements. And again, I was totally comfortable with them. I never really had a fear because I had been using a commitment letter for so long because of that previous experience that it wasn't a big transition. But I had one where I did a consultation. I showed properties. I spent an entire weekend with them. We talked about writing an offer. I gave them comparables. We did all this work. And then all of a sudden, they said they didn't want to move forward. And in that experience, I say a lot, I look for patterns. Like that's a one-off.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
Rolled the dice on it.
I'm not worried about it. But what I will say is if I took anything away from that is maybe like, don't do your consultation and schedule showings the same day. What you're sort of setting yourself up for them to sign something just so they can do the thing they came to do and then say, never mind. And there are people out there who just want to look at houses and they'll be like, okay, whatever, because what is the consequence? Maybe your buyer broker agreement says that there's a cancellation fee. Okay, well, I'm not canceling. I'm just not going to buy anything.
Right.
There are people who just want to look at houses. There's crazy people out there too that'll get pre-qualified, or they have, they'll make a fake letter. Like, so I think if anything taught me in that most recent experience is maybe just give some space. Like, let's make sure you're serious. If they're an unknown, it also benefits you to work by referral. Like the more you lean into, that's why we talk about sphere so much, is like, imagine your sphere sending you a referral. Are you going to have to worry about those people screwing you over?
Not as much.
Not as much. Probably not at all. Like I don't think I've ever had a situation that was a referral. Anytime you've had a few referrals where somebody referred somebody that was either a family member or a friend, where they've prefaced it with, they're going to be a challenge. Oh, right. But like all they mean is maybe that they're a challenging personality. They don't mean like, hey, they're going to sign something with you and then ghost you.
Of course.
So the more you can work referral based, I mean, that's a lesson underneath all of these things.
Yeah, for sure.
But the point of the stories is that in those moments, like you start to learn to stand up for yourself a little bit more. And that's the personal part that you're feeling when you're able to say no to someone in a moment where you've usually said yes. And you're like, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. And there's this personal feeling about that. But it's also like you're just learning to be a business owner and make these decisions that your business is supposed to make a profit. That's all. That's what businesses are for.
When you start treating it like a business. Like, is this a good investment?
Yeah.
In your own,
and we talked about time at length last season. And is this a good investment of my time? That's the question you should ask when you meet with every single person. Just because somebody meets with you for a consultation, by the way, doesn't mean you have to even sign the paperwork. You could end the consultation and say, you know what, I don't think we're a good fit.
Yeah. And that is the power that gives you is so much more than the small paycheck of that you get for getting beat up over and over and over again by those people, or no paycheck.
Yeah.
Right. Just for whatever. Because like Kathryn was saying a minute ago about some people are crazy or whatever. It's like those people, the ones who won't sign the paperwork, the ones who would run you around and then just ghost you, all of that stuff. Those people do not respect what you do because they don't understand what you do. They think what you do is open doors for people. That's your job. I want to see this house. You open the door for me. That's what they think you do for a living. So when you start to feel that from somebody who calls on the phone, to have the power to be able to say, no, I don't think so. You're going to jump through my hoops. You're going to do it this way. And when they say, oh, okay, now you can let them in a little bit. But if they say, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to see this house. Isn't that your job to show me this house? What? Why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So that is
the power of no. It is the most liberating feeling to say no, or no only on my terms.
Yes.
It gives you confidence that cannot be duplicated in any other way.
In any other way. It's very important to kind of to embrace that and to know that that's there. No matter what the situation is.
Yeah.
It's your business, right? That's the beauty of it, is that it's your business. You can do whatever you want. So why are you letting some buyer not sign an agreement or run you around or demand that you do this on a Sunday? Or I thought you said you know what I mean? It's like, it's your business. So yeah.
Let's take a break.
Oh, you want to take a break?
Yep.
But I was just getting started. All right, let's take a break.
If you're enjoying this episode and want more ways to seek your best, not just in your business, but in how you spend your time and energy, there are a few easy places to connect with us beyond the podcast.
Over on YouTube, you can find us at Seeking the Best Pod. We share full episodes of the show, short coaching clips, reviews of real estate products, and tips on building a real estate business that actually works in real life. We post videos on Thursday mornings.
Or find us on Instagram at On Seeking the Best. There we post behind the scene moments, short practical tips, and some of the real unfiltered stuff that doesn't always make it into the show.
And if you're looking for episode supplements like the Candy Bag, where Kat posts more in-depth ideas that we discuss on the episodes, head to onseekingthebest.com. You can learn more about us, buy some Seeking the Best merch, or send us a question that we'll answer on the show.
However you connect with us, thanks for being here and keep seeking your best.
And we're back.
Okay, so I wanted to get into the lessons from these experiences. And I kind of talked a little bit before the break, just kind of teasing what the lessons are. But the first main lesson that I learned is the power of saying no. So we talked about that a little bit. But I think what happens, just to explain this a little bit more, is in your first few years, and I mean 5-6 years, like you're so determined to make it a career that you're willing to say yes to anyone.
And sacrifice.
And there is some of that is necessary. I'm not saying like you just say no and you don't have a paycheck coming in at all.
Yeah.
Like there are sacrifices, there are things. And by the way, some of that, those
that's
experiences
why I said,
are
roll the dice. You sometimes you got to roll the dice.
Yeah.
You know?
But what happens over time is that yes actually becomes a habit. It's this habit of like this, it's almost like a little dopamine hit when you get a lead that says yes to you, that you're like,
Yeah.
and you go and you have your appointment and you're excited about it and you don't like hear any of the red flags because you're just excited to have somebody who's willing to work with you.
Or you do see them, but you round down on all of them, right? So it's like you see it, but but they probably meant this. And then they said that and it's like, I'll check in on that later. And all of a sudden it's like,
but you do that. You do it over and over again.
Especially as new agents, right? Because how many times have you worked with coaching or in your team, new agents who are like, well, I've got these people.
Oh, yeah.
And then they tell you who the people are and you're like, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah. Oh, I had, let me just tell you another story real quick. Yeah. I had a buyer's agent of mine. Now, remember, I said that I started using the commitment letter years ago because of that experience.
Which means they used it.
It became part of the process for the buyer consultation is you bring them into the office. Yes, there was a time where we started doing them virtually. So that was happening. But you don't show property without the commitment letter signed. And I had a buyer's agent and she, doesn't matter who it was. They knew that was the process. That's the system. You don't bend that rule.
For all the things we just said, plus safety concerns and all of the rest. You don't just go open houses, open doors for people.
Yep. So we got a lead on a listing of ours that was a nice price point. And this buyer's agent got a little too excited about that. Did the supposed consultation virtually. I'm not even sure that happened, but let's say it did. And then
they knew that they could say, yeah, it happened virtually because there's no way to track it versus I made an appointment in the office.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, let's assume that the consultation happened as stated. And then they were going to show the property after the consultation and they didn't get the commitment signed in between. So did the consultation virtually, met later that evening, like an hour later, 2 hours later at the property, showed it. And then those people wanted to write an offer. So then the agent went about preparing comparables and doing all of the things and then was ready to, put them in touch with a lender, like all the things to go and write an offer. And then come to find out they had a friend that was an agent that was going to be listing their property that they also wanted to work with to buy. Okay. Because they needed to sell.
Right. So what they said is, it's your listing, because it was Kathryn's listing. It's your listing. Can you open the door for us and let us take a look? And he said, okay. Or she.
So, but here's the thing about this particular situation is that had the commitment letter been signed, you could argue, and I'm sure that the agent tried to with me after the fact, because that turned into a procuring cost situation.
Right.
But here's the fact is that a commitment letter isn't a legally binding document like a buyer broker agreement. So could we have gone and enforced that specific agreement? No. But here's what that does. The same reason that I do the process that I do is it would have given them an opportunity to say, whoa. I just wanted to see this house. I don't want to sign anything. And then the agent could dig a little bit deeper to understand, well, what's holding you back from signing it, and say, I can't show you that until we have this signed because this is how our process works, blah, 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 blah,
They would
blah.
have either said,
oh, well, we have an agent that's a friend. He's just out of town or whatever the situation was. Oh, well, then he needs to show you that house.
Right.
So it was a bit of a mess. And it did end up, if you don't know what procuring cause is, in Florida, we have this law. Like I said, I wasn't going to get in the weeds, but just a real quick note that we have this law that if you are the reason that the people want to make the offer and you showed them the house and there's no gap in communication, that you do have rights to the compensation potentially. I mean, it has to go in front of a board and everything. So that actually did end up going through procuring cause. And then our broker just settled, our broker settled an agreement with the other broker on how that would be split because there was no lapse in communication. I mean, those people. It was
the next day.
It was a couple days.
Oh, yeah.
But he was in constant communication.
Or she.
That the agent was in constant communication with the buyers up until the moment they said, we want this other guy to write the offer. So it wasn't like a week passed and then they had this new agent show them the house or something and change their mind about working with us. So the point in this, though, is the lesson is to make, so you get in the habit as a new agent, even on a team, you get in this habit of saying yes because of excitement. Okay. And then what happens is you continuously validate yes to everybody and this excitement, dopamine hit over and over and over and over again. And then finally something happens where you're like, oh, I need to change the way I do things. So the only way to make sure that no can be part of your business system is to build a process for it. So that commitment letter was my no. Like, it's going to be a no for me if you don't commit to working with me. So if you want to see a bunch of houses, but you don't want to sign off on that, then we're not going to do that. Now, today we have buyer broker agreements. So this is really simple for new agents now to use a process, though, a buyer broker consultation process, to build in the ability to say no if they're giving you red flags. Because again, people will sign off on that and then just disappear and ghost you. So just understand that yes isn't always the answer. In fact, probably saying no more often is the best thing you can do for your business. But I do understand, like, it's hard to do that initially. But at some point, you've got to say, no, this person and I are not in alignment on how I do business, and I'm not willing to sacrifice that.
Yeah.
Learn how to say no.
That's a really hard thing to do when you're busting your butt and, you're getting 10 sales a year and somebody wants to go see $1 million house, right? And you're like, oh, it's like, how do I say no to this person?
Well,
and that's a really hard thing for anybody to do. And, it's like one of the benefits of getting the experience. Remember I was saying earlier about rolling the dice. The rolling the dice is about trusting your gut. The more experience you have, the smarter your gut gets. And so as you move on with your experience and you get more of it, you'll be able to tell there's no way I'm going to do this, right? Kathryn's gut works 99% of the time, but every once in a while somebody sneaks through, right? But she is dedicated to her systems to such a degree that it doesn't happen so much for her.
Can I say, so even that one that I was saying, the little story I told that happened within the last year.
Yeah.
I had spidey senses going.
Did. I remember. I
was not like.
I remember the couple, right?
But once I sat and met with them, those kind of like they weren't completely gone, but I was like, okay.
They did jump through a few hoops.
They jumped through the hoops.
Yeah.
But so the lesson, of course, is like learn how to say no as fast as you can. Like look for the reasons to say no. And don't just say yes because somebody's sitting there in front of you. But also understand, so the other lesson in all of that is that it's not personal. It's a business decision.
What's not personal? You saying no to them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes we feel bad. So this is the other lesson. Like,
I see what you're saying.
I felt, so going all the way back to good old Peter. By the way, I took him off my Sphere past client list a long time ago.
Yeah.
But going back to Peter, I didn't have the skills, the ability to say no in that moment when he asked to have his sister get a referral fee. And I felt bad about it because I was like, oh, well, like maybe not that she should. I earned him as a lead in a different way. A referral fee it's like a finder's fee. It's like when you help somebody get connected with the other person,
yes,
right?
I'm always amazed by people who go, oh, and by the way, my sister's an agent. Like even in a consult, my sister's an agent, and she's going to want the referral fee for this. Is that cool? And it's like, no. Your sister didn't find me.
Yeah.
I was referred to you by your sister, by your friend or whatever, not by the other person that you want. Like a referral fee is a finder's fee. It's you picking up the phone saying, I have to friends who are moving to Colorado, and you pick up the phone and you find somebody in Boulder, and then that person is going to be their agent, and you hook them up. And then that's the referral, not just. It's insane.
Well, so yes. And I think
you've done it for like my sister, right? You were a referral agent for my sister, but my sister didn't go find an agent and then just say, oh, by the way, my sister-in-law is an agent. She's going to get the referral fee. And then we kick it back to her or something. That's not how it works. It's like Kathryn got on the phone, found an agent in my sister's area, interviewed them, vetted them, make sure they were a good agent, and then did the proper channels and referred. That's how you do it.
Well, but my point is that none of this is personal. These are business systems and the way business should work. So it's okay to say no and not feel bad about it. And I just mean like when somebody asks for something like that, when somebody asks you to reduce your compensation because they want you to pay for part of their closing costs, like it's okay to say no.
And this is always very, very good for you to know your numbers.
And you don't have to feel bad about it because, oh, well, they really love this house. And so I really want to help them. Listen.
Go to the dentist and ask if they can kick in part of their paycheck to pay for your root canal. See what they do.
In this industry, we do. And I want you to understand, like, I go above and beyond for people. I have paid for all kinds of things for people because I wanted to in the moment, but it was also a business decision. I always made sure that if I'm going to like pay for somebody's repair or pay for I say always, I mean in recent years. Yeah. But if I'm going to pay for a repair on someone's property, it's because I see the bigger picture, and I'm actually going to I'm going to do that as a gift for them because they've been a really good past client, or they've been a good referral source, or they will be, things like that. Yeah. These are business decisions. You shouldn't ever say yes to somebody because you're like, I feel bad. If you use the word feel in there, this sounds bad, but like if you use the word feel, then just take a step back and say, am I making a business decision or a personal one? And then you can still make a personal one.
Sure, it's your business. Do whatever you want.
What if they're your friends or family? Yeah. Sure, you can make a personal decision to do something like that. But if you use the word feel,
you're allowed to make as many bad decisions as you want.
But like, I think that's a good filter. If you say feel, like, think about this. I'm reading a book on investing, and
boring. She's reading the book on investing. I'm watching MasterChef.
Well, I'm watching MasterChef too. But I'm reading this book on investing. And so think about this, like you have your like buy box and a filter or criteria of like what makes investment sense. And you're not going to go outside of that, because if you go outside of that, it's a bad investment. Like you build out what's going to work for you. And same works for like a business decision is like, does it filter through these criteria And if not, then it's not a business decision that you've made.
Yeah.
And so I think you just need to, that's a lesson that was learned in these experiences, is that, am I doing these things for personal or business reasons? Like I could have easily said to the first time home buyers, yeah, I'll work with you. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page, blah, blah, blah. And
a lot of people would have.
And then we move forward and they do it again. Or they ask me like in a couple weeks, like, hey, we really want this house, but we really need that.
Remember what we did last time?
Like nothing's changed.
I don't want to have to do that again.
And I could have said, oh gosh, well, I feel bad because they really want this house. Now it's the second one they're going into and given them that money. But that would be a personal decision. And guess what? These people are not my friends or family.
Yeah.
And this business is supposed to make a profit so that we can have a life.
Yeah.
That we could buy a house.
Yeah, because we didn't own a house. We didn't own a house then.
Yeah. So anyways, that's lesson number 2. And then we touched on this a little bit, but I think another lesson is that the ones who respect your no are the ones you want to work with.
Yeah.
So like, for instance, if I would have said no to...
That applies to so much.
Oh, so much. But let's just use those 2 stories. If I had said no to the referral and I had lost him as a client, that would have stunk, right? I didn't get to make that paycheck, blah, blah, blah. But that wouldn't have been somebody that I would have wanted to continue to work with, right? And I'm building a career that I'm going to have for my entire life. I'm looking for people that I get to work with again in the future. And so if you're listening and this is your career, not just a job that you'll do for a few years, then you're looking for the cream of the crop that you get to work with and then keep in communication with for 20, 30, 40 years, work with them for all of their life moves and changes. So those no's, if they respect it and say, oh, you know what, Kathryn, I didn't even think about it. You're right. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have even asked. Keep her. Well, I didn't do it in that moment, so I don't know what his answer would be.
Right. I'm wondering also, I don't know if you already do this or not, but I'm just thinking like an idea is, I know that when you take on a buyer, they have a piece of like a paperwork that they fill out that says everything from their birthdays to the things that they like to eat and drink in restaurants and stuff. How did you hear about us, or who did anybody refer you to us on the piece of paper?
Yeah.
That you probably weren't doing then, that he could have filled out and probably put a line through and said nobody. Then I've got this piece of paper that says that with your signature on it that says nobody referred you to me.
Yeah. And
right. And it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like, that's not going to hold up in court, but it's not going to get that far. It's like, you signed this piece of paper saying that there isn't anybody. Let me explain to you what a referral is.
Well, so what you're describing is what we talk about all the time. Like when you see a pattern show up, add it to your system.
Right. But if it's no pattern, then
I've never had that happen again.
Right. Because nobody would. Yeah.
Maybe I feel like I'm saying no, but I feel like maybe it did happen one other time, but I don't remember that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to where I've added that as like a line. But I do ask every single person that is referred to us, how'd you hear about me? So I do get like, was so-and-so referred me and things like that.
Because we do, for those longtime listeners know, we have a VIP program. So when past clients refer, they get perks for like coffee gift cards and that build points and that gets them to the next level, and then they qualify for new raffles. It's a whole thing.
And then you get a blue t-shirt.
Right.
Just kidding. That's a Parks and Rec reference. But so yes, I always ask how they heard about us, and that's a good way to possibly eliminate that sort of issue. And that's a part of my system for my pre-qualification script for setting an appointment. So if you just ask that question, then if somebody said later down the road, you could just be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were referred by so-and-so."
Yeah.
Like that's how we got to know each other. I don't know who your sister is.
Yeah. No, haven't heard from her.
So, but the other thing is like you might meet people at an open house. You could be cold calling. You could be doing direct mail. You might come across somebody where you actually prospected to them. And so all the more reason not to pay a referral fee on that because you found them. But that's when those situations could come up, because you might not ask, how'd you hear about me? Because that wouldn't be part of the system, because it's not an inbound lead. So certainly if you've had this happen to you, if this sounds familiar and it's happened more than once, that's when a system needs to be put into place for sure.
Yeah.
But the other kind of, I don't know, last lesson, or not even lesson, I think it's, I think we went over the lessons. The last thing I'll say in this conversation is that, what I would do differently now, and what I've grown by, my skills in this department have grown a lot over the years, is being more direct. And so when somebody says, so I've grown the skill of saying no, but it's not always like just, oh no.
Right.
No, it can be. I know. I always like that little saying that no is a one-word answer. And I do believe that. But I think we all as agents maybe have a difficult time expressing no. It becomes this rambling of words, and you're like trying to get out your point, but it's just you're rambling, and it creates an uncomfortable situation.
You want to say no, and then you want to explain why.
That's a better way to put it, Patrick. Yeah. You want to explain why. You just nailed it. Yeah. That's what I was trying to get out. And what I've learned over the years is that you don't have to explain why. Mm-mm. But if you're going to, because in a moment like, well, can you pay my sister a referral fee? So like, what would I say today? I would be explaining a little bit, but very simply and matter of fact. I'm not going to get in the weeds with it, you know?
Well, why don't you?
So if you said... So it's laughable, right?
Yeah.
But if you said like...
Oh, Kathryn, by the way, I just wanted to let you know my sister is a real estate agent. And so I was wondering, she was asking about the referral fee.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that you had a sister that had a real estate license. Where's your sister located?
Tampa.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, so actually the way referrals work is your sister would have needed to be the one that referred you to me. And we actually met at an open house and have been working together for 6 months to find this home, Peter. So she's actually not involved in this sale. Had she come and found me, then obviously we would be willing to do that. So yeah, let's talk about this offer.
Right. I mean, what do you say to that, right? What do you say?
But there are moments where you need to explain, just so that they don't bring it back up again.
Right. So
you do want to educate them.
You have to solve the problem. You have to solve it.
And I also don't want to get if I was doing it today, I don't want to get a call from the sister and blah, blah, blah. Nip it in the bud. Yeah. The answer is no. It's a simple no.
Because the sister knows.
Yeah.
She knows she didn't refer anybody.
Yeah. So and honestly, I don't remember. Like maybe she had nothing to do with it. Maybe he just like knew that it would help her out and knew that she could get paid, and he threw it out there. Who knows?
Maybe, or it's one of those things where she lives in Portland. They talked over the holidays and said, I'm buying a house. And she goes, you should have, well, here's what you do.
Yeah.
Go tell her that blah, 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 blah. And then I'll kick the money back to you.
Now, we've got a lot of like, okay, so I have don't get me started on this actually, but with all of this, the changes that have happened in the real estate industry over the last few years, and if you're listening to this in the future, this is 2026. So the last few years, there's all this new paperwork, and everywhere on this paperwork, it says brokerage commissions are negotiable.
Yeah.
And listen, it's true. They've always been. That wasn't news for anybody, by the way. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day because he had not heard about the changes. So I had to explain it to him, and before we agreed to work together, and I went through this, explanation of all the things. And he was like, haven't commissions always been negotiable? And I was like, exactly.
Yes.
But listen, because we've sat at tables and we've negotiated and we've done those kinds of conversations, but it's on all these papers. So I think people believe that means with anybody at any time,
anything can be negotiated.
Right. And to some degree, that's true. Sure. Mm-hmm. But
I know what you're getting to.
But what I'm getting to is when I've done the services that I said I was going to do, and we've come to a place of making an offer on something. So going back to that one situation where they didn't ask me, the first time home buyers didn't ask me to cut my compensation. They just went behind my back and found somebody who would in that situation, and then came back to me later.
Right.
When that deal fell through.
Right. They didn't give you an opportunity to say no.
They didn't give me an opportunity to say no in that moment. But that happens sometimes. I know if you're listening to this and you've sold any real estate, like this has happened before. Somebody then asks you to kick back some money, or
sometimes even the other agent.
Yes, 100%. So again, these are business decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to say yes if it makes financial sense. Would I kick in, $250 to make a deal close so I didn't have to deal with that situation for another 6 months? Yes.
Yes.
Business decision though. I'm not making it because I feel like I need to, or I feel bad about somebody's situation. I'm making the decision because I know what my time is worth.
And you're welcome when another agent asks you to kick in. What is it that you say? You're welcome to give your money to make or what is it?
Well, it's something that this makes me sound bad, but listen, I'm a very good co-op agent and I have contributed many, many times to get deals to close if it makes sense to do so. But I don't think that shouldn't be your knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
And so I have had situations where people have asked right away, not even later when there's an issue. It's right off the bat, they're trying to negotiate you paying. I'm just making up a scenario. This isn't a story, but let's say we're $2,000 apart on an offer and they're like, well, I'll kick in $1,000 if you do. And I'm like, so listen, business decision here. If I know that I can get this listing sold in a timely manner, why would I give your buyer, because that's what we're talking about here. Why would I give your buyer $1,000
out of my pocket?
So I wouldn't. So I would say, you're welcome to contribute towards your buyer's bottom line.
Period.
Period.
You don't owe them an explanation for why. You don't say no and then explain the reasons why you said no. You just say no.
But now this is the negotiable part is if you get to the end of the line and the appraisal comes in a $2,000 low and the sellers are making $0 and the buyer's scraping every penny to buy a house. And it's what if we all kicked in a few $100s? And I'm like,
maybe.
Well, maybe. Yeah. Because listen, would it be worth my time to get it sold for, let's say, $500 now?
What market are we in? How hard was it for my buyers to find this house? Or how hard was it for my seller to get this house under contract? All those things come in. Now, if you had the house listed for 5 minutes and you had 3 offers.
Yeah.
No.
But my general sense is that, or my mindset is that I'm not going to pay for somebody to fix their house or pay for somebody to sell their house. I have my own house.
Yeah.
And I'll fix my house when it's time to sell it.
I have very expensive tastes.
Patrick has very expensive taste, so I have to keep my income. So
we have to keep it at a certain level for me to live the lifestyle that I'm used to.
That you've become accustomed to.
Yes.
But seriously though, this is where the business decisions come into play. And I think those two experiences really shaped the way I think about things, because they both set an example of how people will ask you for anything. They will take advantage of you. They will do whatever that is best for them in a situation. And I know that sounds like a little bit pessimistic or
that's human nature, baby.
But it is. And the more you sell real estate, the more you realize that
see it. Yeah.
That you see it, and that there is a lot of greed and there is a lot of people doing whatever they think is best for them. And so I reserve the right to be kind
to the people that deserve it.
To the people that have been kind and supported me.
Yeah.
And in order for me to do that for them,
I
have to be vigilant about my money when people don't deserve it.
Yeah, because you could give up that $1,000 just to get it closed, never hear back from those buyers again.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't appreciate it at all. And then all of a sudden next month, the people that you really, really like, there's a problem in the inspection. And instead of you having an extra $500 to really help out the people that have been there for you and all of the stuff, you wasted it on the people last month just to get it closed.
Well, and so, and I've used the word and I think I'll just go back to it, but it's not about if I like them or don't like them. It's that's sometimes, yes, your personal feelings come into play, but it's about, is this somebody who is supportive of my business, has been good to work with, who sent me referrals, or I think that they will be a good client for life?
Yeah.
And if so, then I want to treat them well because
usually those are the people you like.
I know, but
I understand what you're saying.
They are usually the same people, but I guess I just wanted to reiterate the point. It's not if they're nice or not.
Yeah.
Everybody can kind of like seem nice, but like, does it support your underlying business goals?
Right.
To make that decision to say yes or no. And you need to just run it through that filter.
Nice through action, not nice through personality.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Or like, for example, I had a teacher once that I was working with that was going through a divorce and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it's like, of course, like she was having a hard time. Like, I want to do what I can to help that person.
Yeah. I remember her.
Because I understand that she's a contributor to our community and society.
Yeah.
And she's just like doing the best she can.
Yeah.
And also at that point in my career, I was making a good profit that I could give back in that way. But when you first get started, listen, you don't have enough revenue coming in to be throwing it away on little things here and there. Like, you need to make a profit before you can make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people because they're like, well, if I don't do this, then this is going to fall apart, and then I'm not going to have money for rent.
Yeah, and that's coming from this place of scarcity.
Yes,
will lead you to make bad decisions.
Yes,
but that's what I was talking about at the beginning, where you get in this habit of saying yes because you're coming from that place.
100%. What happens in a restaurant, guys, when the restaurant starts to slow down? What's the first thing people do? They cut food costs. Right? So we're not going to buy the really good blue crab. We're going to buy the imitation crab because we don't have the money. And you start cutting food costs and what happens? The clientele goes down even more. And then the quality of clientele goes down. And all of a sudden the restaurant's closed. So you have to make a decision somewhere, to where you're going to do that, where you're going to stand up for yourself, and where you're going to say, you know what? I can keep showing houses to this person that can turn their back on me, or I can take that time where I would be doing that and spend it doing lead gen.
I just had this idea. This is kind of random, but I was thinking you could actually build a budget for like these kinds of
emergency funds or whatever,
like negotiation fund or whatever, but like it's kind of like spillage, you could actually budget for it. And then that can help make those decisions when you have a hard situation and you want to help, but it's like, it doesn't fit the budget.
Yeah. If you took 0.05% of every check that came in and put it towards spillage, right? And you wouldn't have anything on the first day, but you also don't have spillage on every single deal.
But I bet if you did that, you'd be more vigilant about who it is,
right? Because then what
situations you're actually using it for.
Yeah, because in your budget you would have a number there, and it would say $2,387. And then when somebody says, "Hey, can you kick in $2,000 on this thing so it closes?" You could say, "Well, that will leave me with $700." So no, I will not do that. Right. But at least it gives you that playroom where if you have to buy the dreaded washer and dryer because you didn't know it conveyed.
Been there, done that.
Then there's money there to do it.
Been there, done that. So just to kind of recap though, no is perfectly acceptable. Saying no gives you this amazing, powerful feeling that, again, just cannot be duplicated any other way. It gives you confidence to make better business decisions. And I recommend find a place this week where you can say no to somebody, like that you've been some situation where you've been thinking about that you didn't want to do something or that things were not going well, and have the confidence to say no.
Yeah. Not going to do that.
Yeah.
Make it simple. Your best move that you can use, not a grind. It's a tip that saves you time. Your best move.
All right, it's time for this week's best move. One simple, smart thing to focus on this week. Not a giant to-do list, not something that takes hours, just one move that actually helps move your business forward. And today's best move this is the last best move, by the way, for open houses and lead follow-up. So a good place to finish is to build a follow-up system. You'll turn open houses into real opportunities.
So a follow-up system for open houses would be a campaign, a smart plan, depending on what kind of CRM you have. what's the emails, phone calls, and text messages, like written out and then put into the system so that you can have those automated tasks. With the dawn of AI, this is so simple, by the way. Like, you can literally have AI help you write the copy for these things. You just have to, of course, prompt it correctly because you want everything should have a call to action. But you can write it all out. The key to that is just actually putting it into a CRM where the email will be sent, where the task will pop up for you to call, and then you have to actually do the calls. Yeah,
it's super easy to sit around all day with ChatGPT or Claude or something, Gemini, and create these huge systems to do all of these things that are just going to end up sitting on a computer somewhere, not ever being implemented. So don't get too big too fast.
Yeah, well, that's why it's your best move. If you already have an open house follow-up plan, but it's not working for you, go revisit, like, what are the touches? How many are there? There should be like 6 calls in the first 10 days and then emails over the course of about 3 weeks, I would recommend. So like 8 to 10 emails over the course of that period of time, because open house leads aren't necessarily like ready to buy tomorrow. So you want to have some sort of plan that can communicate, try to get in touch with them over the course of several weeks so that as they're getting more serious, you're still there reaching out to them.
Okay. Kat, you got a small win this week?
I think this is what I said last week, but I'm just going to do it again because the pool temperature is amazing.
Yeah.
So I've taken a few dips in the last couple of days.
You're going to go take one after this show?
I'm going to go get in after this show because it's just the right temperature. And I know we don't have that much, like, it's a small window where it's not too hot.
Yeah.
Where it's not too cold and it's not too hot. And we're right in this like peak swimming time. And so I'm going to take advantage of it.
And mine's less of a small win, more of a recommendation.
Oh.
So over the last few weeks, Kat and I have been watching The Wonder Years on Hulu. Kat's maybe seen a couple of them here and there.
I've seen The Wonder Years.
You saw the whole thing before?
Well, I don't remember.
That's what I'm saying.
I've seen more than a couple though.
Okay. But I haven't seen it since it was on TV back in the 80s or whenever. And I highly recommend it. It's very, very good.
It holds up.
It holds up. Each episode is like a little movie. Some of them are not as good as others, but most, I would say a good 90% of the show is pretty amazing. It's pretty well done. And I guess the reason why no one's been able to see it up until now is the music rights have been impossible to get. So it was impossible that's why no one's ever seen it on DVD or Blu-ray or anything like that. And for whatever reason, the way that streaming works, Hulu got, along with Bob Dylan leading the way, all the rights to all of the music. And there's so many needle drops.
Yeah.
Like 10 an episode of every song from the 60s and the 70s that you can imagine. And it's just a really well done show. They just don't make TV like that anymore. Each one is a little 30-minute movie. It's very, very good. I highly recommend it.
Yes. And if you don't know what it is, because we have some younger listeners too, if you don't know what The Wonder Years is, it's a TV show that was made in the 80s, but it was set in the late 60s.
Yeah, late 60s to early 70s.
It's a kind of a coming of age. Yeah. Where the main character and his friend group start in middle school and go into high school.
Single camera, funny, dramatic. It's very, very, very well done.
And it's like a snapshot in time. Like you get to experience
it does.
life.
We do a lot of when I was in high school, or I remember this, like not the specifics about like the music or the time or anything, but it does bring back, because he's 12 years old, and it's like it does bring back all those memories and stuff. It's just really well done.
Yep.
And does hold up. So go watch it. Hey guys, for episode extras like the candy bag, ask us questions, or anything else we mentioned today, you can find it all at onseekingthebest.com. And for Kat and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll figure this all out next week.
Bye.
Fall down, get back up, keep on reaching, don't give up. Step by step, nothing less. This is how I seek the best.
This has been a Think Live Be production.